My name is Jennifer Edwards, and this is the Knitterly Arts Podcast, episode number 2. I'm knitting a life, I'm documenting the days, and I'm sharing the journey of creativity with teaching classes here out of a local yarn shop. I teach knitting and crochet classes. I also share that journey online through a lot of different avenues, blogs, my website, and this podcast. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter as Jen Pedwards. You can find me on Facebook with Artful Life. I failed to mention in the last episode that I am drawn to knit on Ravelry, and my website is jenniferedwards.com. From there, you can find all kinds of other blogs and patterns, Etsy shops, etc. So have fun with that. I'm here today. The episode today is going to be dedicated to sharing with you all things about SAFF. SAFF is the Southeastern Animal Fiber Festival, and I spent 2 amazing days there with my oldest daughter. It was just fabulous. I'm not sure exactly what I expected. I had been told that it was going to be huge, and it was. In fact, Catherine and I think if some of the folks who were kind of old timers or have been coming to SAFF saw our faces when we walked into the vendor venue, it would have been something like our bottom lips on the floor. It was just huge. So many artisans, so many fiber makers, crafters, folks there selling anything and everything that had to do with yarn. Roving, spindles, spinning wheels, pottery, all kinds of stuff. And it was just so much fun. I came into Asheville, and Catherine and I went Friday, and then we went back on Saturday. So we had 2 full days, and we didn't have workshops until Saturday. We had 2 workshops on Saturday, and I'll tell you about each of those. It actually worked out pretty well that way. So Friday, we just spent walking around there were actually 2 buildings that had vendors, and we did actually get to see a couple of alpaca that day, but it wasn't until Saturday that we saw more of the animals after we took our workshops. So I'll just dive right into kind of how we went through this. Almost immediately, the very first booth that I saw that she and I were captivated by, and you're just captivated by all of them, and you want to see them all, which we did not get to all of them the first day. But the very first booth that was captivating to me was a pottery booth. And of course, I had told myself that I was not going to be purchasing anything until I had had a chance to go through as much of it as I could. And then the way I was going to process that was if there was anything that kind of stood out in my mind, then I would maybe go back and consider purchasing it. But at this first booth with the pottery, it was called Heartworks Pottery, and I'll put a link to their site in the show notes, but you can't purchase from them online. You can only purchase from them at these fairs and festivals that they go to. But they had a regular line of pottery, beautiful, lots of surface embellishment to them, but mostly brown glazes. And then they had this smaller section of what looked to me like knitter-inspired pottery. There were several of these sheep. This particular sheep has holes in it for holding knitting needles, crochet hooks, DPNs. I've been having it hold my first drop spindle that I had gotten in the spring, along with some crochet hooks. But they also had bowls that used this kind of slip work. And the gal, her name I believe was Cindy, she talked to us a little bit about her process. I love meeting the artists behind all of the items that were made there, and she really stood out to me. Of course, I didn't pick her up right then, and her little face just beckoned to me the whole time we were walking throughout the vendors there at SAFF. And at the end of the day, I went back to see if Rosalina was still there, and she was. And so she came home with me. The next day, there was a blue dressed lamb that spoke to my daughter, and she, on Saturday, purchased that one for herself. So Rosalina, and I don't know what Catherine has named hers, and her buddy are ours, and I really love that. Would you believe I got away from this festival without buying any yarn? It's kind of crazy, but there was so much yarn, so much beautiful, gorgeous yarn. I actually went there trying to find someone that I thought had a booth at SAFF. Her name is Angie Kimmel with Camel City Dye Works, and I have heard of her because she's in our area. And I just really wanted to see her fiber, her yarn. I'll put a link to her Etsy shop because she does do custom dyeing for people, or dye to order, I think maybe is the name. But anyway, I didn't find her. She didn't have a booth. I did connect with her, but didn't come across her. It was just so big. I did run into several students and other folks that I knew there, but I just didn't run into Angie, but I'm sure I will at some point. So spinning. I did come home with some roving, which kind of surprises me, but I got into spinning this summer, and I am a total newbie. I have just been kind of teaching myself, watching YouTube videos, and I do have a friend in one of my classes who is very accomplished in spinning, not only with the drop spindle, but with a spinning wheel. And I am thinking, after my experience at SAFF, that a spinning wheel might be in my near future. Actually, not near future. It's something I'll have to save up for. But there was a booth right close by the Potters, and a gentleman demonstrated a Ashford Joy, I believe is the name of this. It was a travel spinning wheel. Oh, that just looked like a lot of fun. But anyway, I'm enjoying working with a drop spindle. And as I said, my very first one this summer was a shocked spindle, very simple. And it came with 3, I believe they were 1 ounce bits of roving for me to spin up. And I had finished those before going to SAFF. Beautiful colors. I will put a link to the Etsy shop that I got these from. It's a shop out in California. Beautiful wool. It's called Blue-Faced Leicester. And what I didn't realize at the time is that Blue-Faced Leicester is a short staple wool. And what I ended up purchasing at SAFF, one of the types of wool that I purchased, is Wensleydale. I love that. Wensleydale is a long staple fiber and is apparently a little easier to spin. And I've been finding that that's true. But it was, I think, a good thing maybe to even start on the Blue-Faced Leicester because I did learn a lot. There is some serious over twist in these little skeins, and I'm working on that. But I do enjoy this whole idea of making one's own yarn. I'm not sure that I'm into the whole, washing a fleece and carding it and doing all that. I think I'd rather leave that to somebody else. I think I'd even like to leave the dyeing to somebody else, but I do enjoy the spinning part. So I actually purchased a new spindle. This one was so inexpensive. And along with the new spindle, I got this hunk of lovin'. Is it not a gorgeous color? It is oranges, pinks, reds, all rolled into one, and just the tiniest hint of sparkle. I think it's called Stellina or something like that. And so I have actually been spinning this on my new drop spindle. This spindle is significantly bigger than my other one, as you can see here. And I actually love this. I think because it's larger, it has a good bit more weight and heft to it. So it spins and spins and just keeps spinning while you're spinning the wool. And I think because of the long staple, I'm having fewer breaks in the wool, and just really enjoying this process. I have no idea how much yardage I will have with all of this wool. But my hope is that I'll have enough to make a very simple open weave knitted vest. Very simple. It might be short and not long. But I have a design kind of up here in my head, and it'll probably morph and change once I have yarn. It's going to take me a while to spin this, and the gal that sold me this Roving spent a lot of time just talking to me about spinning. I thought it was really generous of her. She was telling me that she recommended that I ply this with something else. That I don't know, I can't remember if she said that it just does better when it is plied with either another yarn or a string of some sort. So I'm going to consider that, but at this point I'm just enjoying spinning it onto my new drop spindle. This drop spindle, it was only $10. A lot of the ones that I saw there, of course, they were beautiful hand-turned wooden spindles, and of course you would want to charge more for your work. But that $10 spindle came with free roving. And so I got these colors, a beautiful, actually what came with the spindle was the brown, and I'll take it out of the bag so you can see it properly. It's just beautiful to see these colors and to feel them. This I don't think is Wensleydale wool. I really don't know. This wool has a little bit of silk put in with it, but those are beautiful colors that came with the spindle. And then I purchased this little bit of brightness to go along with that. I thought that was a nice combination. You know, it's just all about the colors, isn't it? The colors are dreamy and drooly and delicious looking. So this Wensleydale, when she told me this was Wensleydale, Catherine and I were like, Gromit, did you forget the crackers? We absolutely love the Wallace and Gromit series, and how they talk about Wensleydale cheese. So I'm imagining that a Wensleydale sheep is from a particular area by that name in England. You can, of course, correct me if you know more about the naming of that particular kind of wool. So Friday, that was great to be able to wander around, and at some point, you know, several hours later, Catherine and I both just sort of hit our limit. We get a little deer in headlights look on our faces, and we were finished. Our feet were finished. I did, as I say, purchase Rosalina and the Roving on Friday. And then Saturday, we got up and came back to SAFF for our workshops. The first one that we had I was really looking forward to this. It was dyeing silk scarves, and the process was so simple, and the colors were just exquisite. And this is my silk scarf that I learned how to dye. It was just a fascinating process, and one that really enchanted me as a painter, as an artist, and oh, I just fell in love. So much so that I bought the kit and several scarves. Family, you will probably be getting a silk scarf for Christmas. Oh goodness, is this just not... There are no words. Loved it. So that was actually only an hour-long class. I really marveled at how we were able to do that whole process from beginning to end and come out of there with a scarf that was dry and ready to wear. We were wearing ours. Then the next workshop that Catherine and I attended was a 2-hour-long workshop, and it was wet felting a scarf. And we all worked with, again, Wensleydale wool, and we learned how to wet felt a scarf. And this was just a wonderful process. I tried to make a little end there so that, you know, at the end of the scarf it wasn't just a squared off scarf, but actually had a little bit of character along the edges, and also at the very ends here with a little bit of a point. You've got it's a sandwich, 2 sides of Wensleydale wool with things inside, either wool yarn or other bits of roving. There could have been all kinds of things that we put in there. I just used what the teacher had brought for us. She had brought all kinds of things for us to use, and was very generous. Of course, that was part of our class fee. But I'm not sure that I definitely was not as taken with wet felting as I was with dyeing a silk scarf. I'm not sure that I'll do this process again, even though it was enjoyable to do as a class. But I am likely to go back into this with some surface embellishing. I kind of have in my head some different designs that I'd love to see if I couldn't embroider on this scarf. I'm also playing with some other little ideas. So I'll keep you posted if I do anything more with this. It's very soft, and would make a lovely scarf just as it is, but I think it's just begging for some more color and for a little bit more pizzazz to it. So the classes and workshops, there were so many that you could pick from that, wow, maybe next year I'll go back and take more classes because I really enjoyed taking them. It's been a long time since I, as a teacher, have been able to take classes, and that's always a good thing. As a teacher, you always want to be learning. You always want to be taking from other teachers so that you see even not just what they're teaching you, but how they're teaching, so that you can learn from them. You learn, both what you want to do and incorporate into your own teaching, and what you probably don't want to. So it's a great thing. And as a person who goes down your journey of knitting, crocheting, painting, drawing, whatever it is, if you've been doing those things for a good many years, you need to maintain a beginner's mindset, right? You need to always be learning, always be trying new things, just for the fun of trying it, just for the fun of being a beginner and maintaining that curiosity as a beginner, as someone who's trying something new. So that's why, I took up spinning in the summer, is because I just had an itch to know, well, what is it these folks are doing when they're spinning yarn that I am then, that I have the privilege of knitting or crocheting into something? What's the process it's going through? That's what kind of launched me into spinning. And now I've discovered that I love spinning. I don't. It's not something that's going to take the place of knitting or crocheting or painting or drawing, but it's definitely something I want to continue and to pick up and be able to spin yarn from these beautiful rovings. And then I just had no idea that I would fall in love with dyeing silk scarves. I'm looking forward to having a day where I can set things up with the kit that I have and dye some scarves, beautiful scarves, maybe even sell them. I don't know, but just be a beginner. I think being a beginner and maintaining a beginner's mindset does so much for us. Of course, it keeps those curiosity juices flowing. I think that it allows us to understand what it's like to be a beginner, especially if we're teachers. That it's a great thing to remember what it was like, what it is like when someone comes into your knitting class or your crochet class or your drawing or painting class, whatever it is you might teach. And they are brand new at it and all the feelings that go along with it. I had the whole, am I going to like this? Is this going to be fun? Is it going to feel arduous? Am I going to be good at it? That's a big question that students have coming into my knitting classes or crochet classes. Am I going to be good at this? Am I going to be able to do it? With the spinning, it was like, am I going to get this? That it took a little bit. It's continuing to. I'm learning as I go. And the other thing I think that's great about maintaining a beginner's mindset is that it helps you learn to live with uncertainty. Just to live with the whole, I don't know. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how it's going to turn out. I don't know whether I'm going to be good at it or not. I don't know whether it's something that I'll stick to or not. And none of those questions have to be answered before you try something, right? You need to give yourself permission to just dive in. Just look for, in your area, classes on how to knit, how to spin, how to dye wool, how to paint, how to draw, how to, anything, crochet, how to do mosaics, how to work with clay. Oh my goodness, I've done clay and pottery work in the past and have often said that in another life I would be a potter. Just dive into something. Give it a try. Give it a whirl. Give it a long enough time for you to really be able to see whether you like it or not, whether it's something you want to stick with. So taking classes, that was really fun. I'm very, very glad that I did that. But I have to tell you what the highlight of that weekend was. The highlight of the weekend was Saturday afternoon. Catherine and I actually found the barn where the sheep were kept. Oh my, these sheep. And I have come home and I've been drawing these little guys. Well, little. Some of them were little. Some were big. All different colors. Of course, I didn't see a lime green, burgundy, pink, blue sheep there. But I just had to draw him that way. There were all kinds. Long haired, of course, like this guy, the little locks hanging over his eyes. Shorter haired sheep, dark chocolate brown and black, gray, nearly white, cream. Horns, no horns, long ears, ears that stuck up, ears that flopped down, longer faces, shorter face, every kind of sheep you could imagine, and they each have their own name. We actually were taught a little bit. One woman just wanted to talk to us about Jacob's sheep. How cool are they? 4 horns coming out of their heads. These guys were fascinating. I have a few pictures of them. I'll probably do a drawing or two of the Jacob sheep, but oh my, how delightful and fun was that hour and a half maybe that we stayed there, just going up and down, looking at each of these sheep. Now, Catherine was taking note of the price of the sheep because one day she would like to have and own a sheep or two on land or, you know, on her property. But I am content not to own them, but to draw them. And so I did this fella this morning. He's actually the same sheep as the first one I showed you, and in this case it was almost like he was winking at me. So fun and just such personality, and they're looking at you while they're chomping their hay, and you know, I'm sure that's very attractive. But so fun. Catherine found 2 little guys who just, you know, put their heads through the cages there and were loving every minute of being petted and scratched around their face. She, of course, was besotted, and I was enchanted by all of the sheep there too. We got to see one of the sheep being not sheared but groomed, and that was fun. And just enjoyed a really lengthy time there in the barn with the animals. So that was SAFF. SAFF, the weekend was hot. I really thought that being in Asheville at the end of October, we would have cool weather. We did not. It was right around 80, couple of notches above that, 80 degrees Friday and Saturday. And so, you know, I was determined to have knitwear that I took to wear for SAFF, and just ended up choosing cotton things. And this is a Freeform crocheted piece. It's like a little capelet. You know, all these terms that we use, capelet, wrap, poncho, what have you, they're kind of interchangeable in some ways. But this is something I made in the spring or summer. I think it was after my daughter's wedding that I made this with various leftover yarns. There's no way to write up a pattern for this. Freeform crochet, if you're familiar with that technique, it is a wonderful one for using up your leftover bits of yarn, for just setting yourself free from having to use a pattern. No rules. The only thing that comes into play here is making it so that it would fit over your shoulders if you're making a garment. If you're making a shawl or something that's going to wrap around you, you don't have to worry about it fitting. But in this case, you know, I was wanting it to be able to drape over my shoulders. And then you just use any stitch pattern that you would want to. And I like to start off with motifs that I just sort of make up, and then do surface embellishment after I have joined them with all different kinds of stitches. Freeform Crochet is a class that I usually teach at least once a year at our shop, Knit 1 Smock 2 in Winston-Salem. And it's a lot of fun. It usually it takes some getting used to for students if you're used to using a pattern, but it's just terribly freeing. And I think it's an art form in and of itself because you basically are painting with yarn. You're making designs and shapes using your crochet hook as your paintbrush, and your paints are the yarns. So look into Freeform Crochet if you'd like. I will recommend a book that I think there are lots and lots of freeform books out there, and sites that you can go to. But Myra Wood's book, Creative Crochet Lace, is wonderful because she teaches you in that book just how to construct a garment using the Freeform Crochet technique. I'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. That's pretty much it for SAFF. It was wonderful, amazing. If you get to go to a fiber festival in your area, please do so. I'm already thinking about next year, and I hope I'm able to go again next year with Catherine. And in an upcoming episode, we'll talk more about yarns and patterns and what I'm currently working on. But I wanted to give you an update about SAFF. So I hope you have a wonderful day, full of color, fiber, paint if you like, or whatever creative outlet you're into these days, and that you have an artful day. Bye-bye.